Welcome everyone on the panel. Welcome everyone in the chat. Please hit that like and subscribe on your way in. Thank you so much. Hello to all my new subscribers. However you found me, you are here now, baby, and I welcome you. Gets rough here, gets a little bumpy, so buckle up, okay? But you're always going to get the real here from me and my panel. I am Jen of On the Block with Jen, your favorite devil's advocate, hopefully. Hopefully, we shall see. You can reach me on all social media platforms, On the Block with Jen, On the Block with Jen at Gmail for business, collaborations, and what have you. Stay out of there if you're asking me to marry you and you don't have $1 million. I said what I said. Go cry in the car. Don't give a fuck. Otherwise, hit me there with business. Okay? All right. So you can also cash at me if you want to support this show and you like anything that we do up here. On the Block with Jen Cash App, scrolling on the bottom. Thank you so much to everyone who cash apps me when I'm not on air because you saw a stream and you was like, I want to support this channel. Thank you from the bottom of my widow, cold heart. Everybody works hard for their money. You don't have to give me your money, but you do. I appreciate you. And that's where we can be discreet. A lot of people don't like other people seeing where their money goes. Unless you want me to shout you out as one of my sponsors. Yeah, we could do $1 million liquid too. Unless you want to shout out, you want me to shout you out and say you're one of my sponsors, I will do that. Just send the cash app with a little note and I will do that. But a lot of people just like giving money on the low, which is great. If you don't care, you can super chat us. We will pull your comment on up here and dissect it. You're also welcome to the panel at any point in time to be a part of the discussion or to rebut the discussion. We just ask that you do it with your face. We don't do avatars. However, there's a new rule. If you want to come up here and hide behind your avatar, which I understand, sometimes ladies don't have their makeup on, sometimes guys didn't get a shape up, you can come up, but you have to pay a fee. Throw something in the super chat and say, I want to come up. I'm behind the avatar. I don't want to show my face. We'll accept that too, but you have to pay. That's just the penalty for hiding. Okay, you can hide, but you got to pay to hide. Otherwise, come on up here with your grill. We love faces. It makes for better conversation, but I understand sometimes you don't want to show your face. That's fine. My panel will introduce themselves. Please follow each of them. And I hope you caught No Saints and Haran's show the other day. It was, let me tell you something, honey. It was a lot of testosterone over there. I wasn't going over there. Okay. There was a lot of testosterone. I didn't want to go over there and grow a beard and shit. I was like, I'm going to let the fellas do what they do. It was a great turnout for their first stream. I loved it. I peeked in, just, I did the little mama hen thing. Like, what are you guys doing? And then I let the guys do what the guys do. But I was very, very impressed with the stream and I'm happy that they did it and hopefully they'll keep doing it. And you guys, when y'all get sick of me and Lily, y'all can go over there and have a good old guys time and locker room talk without me saying anything. Okay. With that said, Lily, let the people know where to find you, por favor.
I am Lily of YB Limited. That is the letter Y, the letter B, the word limited, the way it is spelled here on the screen. You can find me here on YouTube as well as Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. All right. I started my career as a makeup artist and then I moved on to become a model and actor. And then those roles led me here on the block with my team.
Well, I don't know if it was just me. It looked like Lily was pulling some ventriloquism. Ventriloquism.
Is it acting crazy?
I didn't see your mouth move for the first 30 seconds. I'm like, but everything came out.
Get to it, No Saint.
Yeah. So, okay. Easy. Yes, I am Saint No Saint, or I am No Saint, but you can get me a Saint No Saint on YouTube and IG, and just No Saint on TikTok.
Thank you, George. Welcome back, darling. And you haven't started your page, but you will. Yes,
I will. Without fear or favor is what its name is. And just real quick, I was just going to tell you, No Saint, I saw your live stream the other night. Really good. I was kind of surprised. Jen, he scooped you. He scooped you.
He scooped me? What does that mean?
Yes, he was scooping you. He talked about the topic we're going to talk about tonight. The fresh and fit guys. I was like, Jen, surely she would talk about that. But anyway,
listen,
that's just the way it was. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what's great? You know what? Great comment, George, because I didn't want to touch this. I am really, and AJ, I know you saw, AJ said in the chat, hi, AJ, fellow atheist. He said he was waiting for me to jump on this. And here's the thing, and I get it because a lot of people want to hear what the block has to say about certain topics because we have a very interesting way of dissecting subjects. But I'm just so over the filth of YouTube. Like, I'm over these clowns. It's redundant. I don't know how much more we can talk about them. So I try to stay out of those lanes, of those arenas. I had someone I respect very much, Star from the Star Report called me. He's like, hey, are you touching this? Are you jumping on this? And I'm like, Star, I don't give a fuck about these Negroes. But he was like, well, everybody's talking about it. I was like, fine. I will talk about it, right? But really, I like talking about other things that are interesting, and I understand we're all on YouTube and people want to hear what we got to say about it, so we can touch on it. But I want to be more general, you know what I mean? It's fresh and fit, demonetized, who's shocked. But I also want to talk about why are hate content creators so stupid, right? Because this is how I see it. Why are hate content creators so stupid? Like, even some that I've had beef with were not very, very bright. So it's very easy to take them down and affect their channels and what have you, because they're very, very stupid. But I noticed there's a culture on social media where it's literally locker room talk out in public. And people forget that locker room talk is supposed to be in the locker room. But what happens is people get very comfortable in these spaces and they start saying things out loud in front of people that should be private. They'll give you where they live, where they work, whether or not they're on probation, what crimes they've committed, what they thought about the judge or the DA. And they give you all this information on their lives. When they're not doing that, they're pushing the envelope with racism and what have you. So it's very, very easy to retaliate to one of these very stupid hate content creators. And we're seeing that now with Fresh and Fit. So we'll discuss it. Why not? We're here. Let's get into it. But I do want to just say really quickly, I don't know which one is the skinny one or which one is the short one. I don't know their names. I don't watch the show, but I do know I have seen some clips, and I do know they beef a lot with women. And I know women didn't do this for me, and women are this and what, they're redundant, hit the wall, you're whatever, you're sad. I already know who and what they are and what they do, but I haven't watched the show. So feel free, chat, panel, anybody watching, to fill me in on exactly who these guys are. I probably know as much as, I don't know, somebody who's just walking by, to be honest. But so that's why I want to tackle it from just the general. Why are these guys so stupid? Because I heard why he got demonetized, and I was like, well, that was stupid. That was just blatant stupidity. With that said, I want to pass the mic. So whoever wants to jump in, let's get it.
Lily, I'll defer to you.
Okay.
And
All right. Yeah, when it comes to this type of stuff, first of all, I don't know who they are individually. I've caught clips of their content, and every time I do, I'm not trying to be funny, but the first thing that I literally think, I'm like, people actually watch them? Like, people like
Lots of
this.
people, actually.
Yeah, and it shocks me. And I just sit back and I look and I'm just like, but then it makes sense. It makes sense when I take it back and I really think about it. There are more people like them than not in this world. So their audience is plenty, right? Their audience doesn't feel heard or seen. So you look at these guys, they came up on YouTube and they made money. And it was something Abby said, without money, no one would touch them. They know this. They know this, right? And so they got money. And so the people who they relate to, who can relate to them, that's what's propping them up. Because now, the women are going to come around them because now they have the popularity, I wouldn't say power, but popularity and money, right? So they see them do that, and so now I can see why the people would feel connected to them. But when it comes to this type of content, it's just not sustainable. It's just not sustainable. It really isn't. I've always been one of those people who love, like, I love Wendy Williams from before she became, like, since she's been in New York, and there was a lot of love about Wendy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there was times where her delivery came off as hateful and not entertainment. There were times, this is coming from a huge fan, and I was like, okay, now that came from another place as opposed from entertainment, and I'm just really big on energy, and what you put out comes back some way, somehow.
Hmm.
And so that's the reason why I feel like this wasn't sustainable. So I just sat back, grabbed my coffee, and said, I'll sip slow. And this has been fun to watch. That's all I got to say for right now.
I mean, I will say though, there is power in popularity.
Mhm.
There's power in popularity, and I'll pass the
Yeah.
mic on that.
Yeah. And one of the things that it took from that, I've watched them a few times, and I don't really care for what they have to say. I mean, in other words, it doesn't matter to me one way or the other. I'm
Okay.
just not their target audience. They're talking to young men, much younger than me. Probably in their 30s and 20s is who their primary audience is what I suspect. Um, what one interesting take, Jen. I went back and looked at some of their clips, at the recent clips where they've gotten a lot of notoriety,
Hmm.
and what they claim. And that is, they started talking about things that I've said here on the panel, and we have said on this panel, about talking about race relations. And we're saying, come on, we need to have some discussions about this. And so what it seems to me like is, and I was really surprised because the the fit one is the taller one, Myron Gaines.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I just, the only reason I know that is when they did their emergency broadcast, I watched it, and they were talking. Their names came up.
I wrote it
But
down.
Yeah, because now I
yeah,
can remember that tall and fit. Okay, got it. All right,
yeah,
cool.
Okay.
and so they were talking about what's going on, and where I differ slightly from No Saint, from his opinion that he put down Saturday night, is that this is it started with gun channels, Jen, when people were just doing demonstrations of firearms, taking them apart, showing you how they worked, this and that and the other. They demonetized them and said, "Okay, you can stay here, but uh, we're not going to do anything for you." And what they wound up doing, a lot of these content creators, they started partnering with like other companies in that niche and what they're in, not like Johnson and Johnson or something like that. Okay. But it started with them. And then I said, I wondered at the time how long this was going to be before they rolled into other
Hmm.
areas they don't like. Now I get it. No, saying you're totally right. It's a
Hmm.
private platform. You sign up, you agree to the terms of service, and pretty much, when you sign up, you sign on that line to put it be a content creator. You got to abide by their guidelines. Um, where there's a real blur here is that in 1996, you all might remember, when the internet was just getting going, there was a big fear. Remember, it was AOL and CompuServe back then. No such thing as YouTube and all that back then. And they passed a law. It was the Digital Millennial, or the Millennial, anyhow, DCA. I think that's the acronym for it.
Hmm.
And one of the things it did is it protected uh, platforms like YouTube, like Google, and others, Facebook, from liability from lawsuits. Like, Jen, I get up there and say, Jen is a so and so, so and so. And what they were worried about, Jen says, not only am I going to sue George back to the Stone Age, Facebook, I'm going to sue you back to the Stone Age because you didn't stop this. And so they said at the time, hey, listen, we can't be the content police. We can't police this.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that was part of the protection. So now what's happened is they've gone from being platforms to being publishers, to being like um, um, more like editorialists, if in a way. And so I'm kind of thinking, well, okay, you guys, then if this is the way you're going to play the game, then we need to repeal part of that act where you can be sued now, because they've actually allowed people to get on there that they agreed with to defame other people that they didn't like.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, then what's is the whole thing about one good term deserves another? Well, then you deserve to be sued then. but right now they're blocked from they kind of like they're having their cake and eating it too. It's
Of
really
course.
what I'm saying.
Okay.
But going to like, why are content creators so stupid? Hate content creators are so stupid. It's kind of, the answer is really kind of in the question, isn't it? And what I think is, going back to the earlier thing about the conversations that need to be talked about, I think what we do a good job on this and keeping it in the lines is I think he did a KKK impersonation of somebody. You put it was really obviously very contrived. This is the fit one. He put on a
I
hood
saw
or something
that.
like that.
I saw that.
I was like, when he did that, I was like, okay, you're a black dude. They're going to let that slide.
Mhm.
But, evidently that may have been one of it. And I think they've had Nick Fuentes on there. And they let him say the N word on there. He was being goaded by other women on there to do
I
that.
saw that clip. Like all their like their latest controversial clips, I did see. Thank you for the generous super chat, Haran DeMarco. Haran DeMarco is also a panelist on The Block with Jen, and he was kicking it with No Saint yesterday on their stream. Haran DeMarco says, someone will replace them. Society pumps out weak, broken men every sunrise. In regards to their intellect, none would be mistaken for Mensa members. It's all under the guise of self-improvement, when in fact, it's a revenge porn buffet. Haran has a way with words, yeah?
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm through. No Saint. I'll turn it over to you, buddy.
Yeah, No Saint. So what was your stance yesterday? Because I didn't get to watch the entire stream. I didn't want to be all up in your spaces.
Well, I think what he's referring to is, I was saying that Facebook is a public platform. Freedom of speech, it doesn't apply to Facebook. They can do whatever they want. It's their rules, their platform. So if you say something that they don't like, I'm talking about the organization or the company, not an individual, but like whoever runs Facebook, whoever has the call on Facebook, when people complain about free speech, it's not the government telling you what you say. It's actually a private company. So I understand what George is saying about, we have similar complaints about religion, and not every religion, not every church, but religions are going very political lately, and they're tax exempt. So if you're going to go political and start promoting politicians, then you should be taxed. I get what you're saying. You may have a point there, but that's something they'll have to work out, right, with the government. It's still a private company. All these companies that have any enforcement, and basically I was saying everybody's got a boss. You think you own your own channel, and you don't. You got somebody over you that can do whatever, that can take it away really easy, no matter how big you are, how much money you're making. So that's basically what I was saying.
Yeah, well, that is definitely true. Everybody has to answer to somebody, but these guys, they get, they kind of like YouTube and internet in general just creates monsters, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger over time, and they get more brazen, right? Because they're not being checked. Personally, I know the skinny guy, he wore the KKK hood. I don't think that did it.
The Jewish, the small hat, is that one that I heard Star talking about today, that he
he did the, well, I don't know, because the clip I saw, he dressed as a Hasidic Jew with the beard and the big black hat.
Yeah, that's enough right there.
Okay, but remember Nick Fuentes was on there, and the black girls were egging him on to do the derogatory words. They weren't demonetized. And then the skinny Myron wore the KKK hood. They weren't demonetized. You can't fuck with the Jews.
Exactly. Because when you said that, it was, when I heard, I don't know who said it, but when I overheard that it was for the N word, I'm like, don't nobody get rid of nobody for using the N word. They love that. They love that.
Enough. Yeah, not powerful enough.
Like,
no. But to what I think Lily makes a good point. But on the show last night, we spoke about, if you're gonna, it's hard for me to look at those two guys, and other than, I know they have a lot of money, but I'm looking at them like, why am I listening to these two guys? It doesn't look like like if they would have had someone with some clout or some really good looking guy that's buff, and I may listen to him to tell me what women want, or I don't know. It's just kind of odd, but I don't know I do know what Lily's saying as far as like they feel like they're all together, like a school clique or something like that, right? And they're all getting together and talking about how bad women are, and
Yeah. I mean, it literally is. I don't, some people say Revenge of the Nerds. I don't say Revenge of the Nerds because nerds get girlfriends. Nerds are just into, I don't know, space, outer space, or, fishing or comics or whatever. These guys are really Revenge of the Rejects. There's a difference. So this is not Revenge of the Nerds. These are the guys that were really broken down because women were constantly either rejecting them or they just didn't have the guts or the balls to approach women. And now, because they have some YouTube money or some social media money, now they can have a bunch of bimbos around them. And women, let me tell you, hypergamy exists, but women, they display this desperation that quite honestly is nauseating. It's sickening. I've seen women act like a bunch of desperate dogs because a guy had maybe 6 or 7 zeros in his account. And this is what gives these type of rejects the power to behave they're behaving. As you guys know, I was at Access Vegas, but that experience and watching women, whether it's women who called into Kevin Samuels, whether it's women who are sitting across Andrew Tate, whether it's women at Fresh and Fit, like these women act like really desperate little dogs, and they either want to be seen for clout or they're trying to get with one of the guys in there that has money. So they allow these men to treat them and speak to them however they see fit. And if the women clap back, they throw the women out. But really, the women are giving them the power to continue to behave this way. So these men push the envelope and push the envelope and push the envelope. So the skinny guy, the Myron guy, went too fucking far. But again, hate content creators are stupid, right? They're just stupid. They don't know when to fold them, when to hold them. You know what I mean? They just don't know how to do that. And, I predict they're all going to crumble. They're going to eat each other. They're all constantly beefing with each other. That's why sometimes when they come after me, I'm like, they'll eat each other eventually. And I step back for a couple months, and what happens? They're all eating each other and fighting each other and doing reaction videos to each other because, like Lily said, it's not sustainable. It's not productive. Therefore, it is not sustainable. And I'm sure Fresh and Fit felt like they were the head honchos, right? The last boss in the game. And look what happened to them. And I think it's going to be happening more and more often on days that they're not eating each other. And I think the guy was pushing the envelope on purpose. Everybody wants to be a shock jock. I thought the KKK hood was way far, but the powers that be don't give a damn about that. But it was when he came in acting Hasidic and making fun of, according to Star was telling me, he was making fun of the Holocaust and all kinds of things. And I'm like,
okay, yeah, that did it.
Yeah, that did it. So, and he was asking like questions about it and they were all laughing. So I was like, yeah, you're out of here.
And if he even said anything, and let me say this for the record, I am not anti-Semitic. I believe the Holocaust happened.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's put that out there. But if they hinted in some way that they were like denying the Holocaust, oh yeah, that was like instant. Yeah. That's like you're gone. Yeah. The thing, Lily, I've watched another channel guy, another content creator that was on their show like in the very beginning when they were like at 60,000 subs, and it's kind of funny to think of like 60,000 is considered to be really, it's like small potatoes, but in the YouTube universe it is. But anyway, he said, he went to a site that like monitors stats, and I'm sure you have access to this stuff too, where you can see like the views and all that stuff. And he said, what happens is, he said, even on his channel, he noticed that he says you can only talk about something for so long before it gets old. It just, how many more ways can you say it kind of thing, right?
Yes.
And so he said they tried to reinvent themselves, or not reinvent, but push the boundaries a little more. And
Okay.
so it was kind of like, Lily, I don't want to steal your tagline, but it's kind of like they just learned, gots to be more careful.
Got to be more careful. Like, what?
I
When they gonna
love it.
learn, George? When they
I
Yeah,
gonna learn?
I
yeah,
love it.
See, they're one trick ponies. They're one trick ponies,
Mhm.
right? And so you're right to add on to what you're saying, George. What happens is, I'm gonna tell you exactly what happens. It's the same kind of thing that happens with OnlyFans people.
Mm.
Okay, OnlyFans is a one
Lily,
trick pony. Oh,
check your connection.
okay, yeah, because it was acting stupid on the way. I'm gonna go out and come back in.
All right, thanks,
yeah.
doll.
Okay.
Haran says it was funny watching those stoic men in tears when their blankie got taken away from them. I heard they were crying on there. Were they actually crying?
Yeah, they were. Well, the skinny one was. What
Okay.
he did
Fit.
is he said,
Fit.
um, he said, well, as you know, he talks. He used to work for the Department of Homeland Security. I don't know exactly what role he was in, but
Okay. That's
anyhow,
scary. That's scary.
and and it had something to do with. Anyhow, he said he was saving children. Okay, whatever that means.
Okay.
And then he says is more though he says even more meaningful to him than saving his children was saving some of the guys, because, and I'll cut him some slack here, because I've had people do this with me, is
Mm-hmm.
that and Jen, you probably had it yourself. It's like where you've helped somebody in the past and they come back and thank you for what
Yes.
you did, and he got emotional about that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of like, unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
that may have been a genuine emotion, but in the context of what was going on, he got no sympathy for that. Because I found out later on that he got a lawyer, or the two of them got a lawyer and sent out, had them like carpet bomb other content creators with copyright strikes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
allegations, and as a way of trying to like knock people off.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get three, because like on one channel he hit them with 10, and
Mm-hmm.
as you know, if you get three, I don't
Yeah.
know what the time frame is. If you get three, you're gone.
Right. If
And
you get
so,
3 within 90 days. So I'm gonna say this to the tiers. I want to address the tiers. It's all psychological bullshit, and here's why. It happens to all those guys that run around and they're on top of the world and they're scorching earth. They don't care about people's feelings or whatever. And then when they get taken down a notch, what happens is they start to martyr themselves, right? And they're not the first ones to do it. Okay. A lot of men have done it throughout time. They martyr themselves. Oh, they don't want you to get this information. And I'm here for you. I was here for you. Right. It's a tactic. Okay. That is what he's doing. These guys are stupid, but they read all the go-to books, 48 Laws of Power, The Art of Seduction. We've all read them. We all have them. We know we know what's in those books, right? How to convince anybody of anything. And usually psychology 101, when you're dealing with these type of personalities, is martyr yourself. You are going down now. Quick, martyr yourself. Have people come out and fight for you, right? Insist that you were there for the people, right? It's psychological fucking warfare. This is what they do. They're not the first people to do it. When you're gathering the mob, you have to let them know, hey, look, they're trying to take your people down. I was here for you. And that's where those tears came from. I think it was contrived. I don't take it seriously. I think they're full of shit, so
that's really pretty good, because I hadn't thought, that's an angle I hadn't really quite considered. Is that yeah, there's books I've got here that the guy that Bernays. If you ever get a chance, read a book by a guy, Bernays, the father of modern advertising. He's the one
Mm-hmm.
that got them to put cigarettes on TV, commercials, all that.
I
And
study him a lot.
yeah, very
Mm-hmm.
interesting. But Leela, you were saying about when you get the content gets same old. Then what do you do then? Yeah.
Yeah. So what I
really
was,
quickly, I just wanted to I wanted to address the super chat. WW Gaddy, yes, cult leader talk. That's exactly what it is. Cult leaders do that as well. their plight is they're trying to take this information from us. They don't want us to be free. They don't
Monique.
want me to teach you. It's a
That's Monique.
tactic. It's a
That's
tactic.
Monique. You see what they're doing to us black women? That's Monique.
Absolutely. Monique is a great example because Monique doesn't address black people as her community until someone's fucking with their money. As you can see, she's been completely silent. As soon as her checks bounce, then she's like, I love us for real. She uses the same verbiage as well. I love us for real. I'm doing this for you. So the people that come up behind me. And then when you ask Monique, who has she put on? Who has she mentored? Has she built any type of systems, ecosystems where she's pulled other comedians or women? There's not one. If you Google her charity work, I didn't find anything. Philanthropy, I didn't find anything. But whenever someone's fucking with her money, then she loves us for real, and she's doing this for the women that come behind her. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Smoke and mirrors. Thank you for the super chat, Fahim Jackson. Fahim Jackson says, what's wild is that Myron made those Jewish statements on another platform. Rumble is the platform, which means someone reported them to YouTube via this Rumble platform. Okay, because the clip I saw, I'm not on Rumble, and the clip I saw was on YouTube. So either they clipped it and put it there. I don't know how it happened, but where I saw him like doing the Hasidic costume and the jokes, it was on YouTube. Lily, you were saying?
So what I was comparing them to is like an OnlyFans sex worker, okay, which is a one-trick pony, right? So eventually that shtick gets old, and then you have to become more and more outrageous, and then you start going into this weird territory of the selling your soul, which means, in my opinion, doing things that you wouldn't normally do for a check. Because I imagine being an OnlyFans model, you're starting off, you're sexually free. You're like, hey, this is what I do. I'm very sexual. I'm very sexually free. But then after a while, they're like, girl, we done seen that. We done seen the coochie about 39 times this month. Like, we done seen the, like, we need you to screw a frog. You know what I'm saying? They start asking for more and more and more, and then you get into this weird place where you can't deliver anymore. And then the people they bounce. They bounce. Right. And those type of channels, those type of guys, that's exactly they remind me of OnlyFans sex workers.
And also the market is so saturated. Like there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of channels where men are bashing women, right? And that's why I agree with you, Lily. I think that's why they were pushing the envelope the way they were. And how do you push the envelope? LGBTQ, race, and gender wars. So they was like, okay, let's go into, if this didn't work for them, right, they would have went straight into the LGBTQ if they haven't already. Because again, I don't watch them. But again, why are hate content creators so stupid? Did they not see what happened to Kanye West? Because we all saw it. He was destroyed, their favorite word on the internet. Okay, they cut him down to about $500 million from $2 billion. Do we not see? I mean, we all saw it. Do we not see what's happening? That he thought he was going to go after, Jewish people. Let me say something about Jewish people real quick. Let me just say this. They get a lot of hate. They got reparations. But let me tell you something. I fucking admire them. I don't knock a hustle. I wish Latins were that way. Right. I wish Black people were that way. So I'm like, how are you mad at a people that stuck together to build a thing? Reparations or not. So I never, for the life of me, understood the hate. I didn't get it. I still don't get it. You're really mad because people got together and organized via religion or whatever, however people want to paint them. I don't have a dog in the fight because I'm not religious. I don't understand. I don't understand why they are targeted the way they are. If they're the ones at the top of the poll, right? You can't say totem pole anymore. I don't think that's politically correct anymore. But if they're at the top of the poll, right, it's like, why are you mad at them about their hustle? To me, it is envy. It's no different than being mad at somebody that works out. Look at him coming in here with all those muscles. He thinks it. Motherfucker's in the gym all the time. He's working for it. It's the same thing. Like, it's like they work for it. That is what they do. There's nepotism like a motherfucker. Why don't you go make something of yourself so you can practice a little nepotism? I don't get it. Go ahead, Lily.
I'm with you. I've been hearing hate with them my whole life, right? And I'm one of those people. I can hear something, but if I haven't met no one, I'm reserving judgment. Because it's just hearsay. Because people could talk about me all day long, and I will want people to do the same thing for me. It
Right.
wasn't until I moved here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know how it is here. You get to see it in full display of how they operate.
For sure.
And I was like, oh, what I was hearing were true statements, but I didn't see it in a negative way. Once I saw it in
Correct.
person, I was like, hold on, but my perception of it looks different from the way you all are saying it. Because I'm like, that's what we should be doing, right?
Correct.
Like I admire so much of how they do it because you all know, we all know that there has to be infighting and all that, but we don't know what it is. Can't none of us say what it is because they keep that shit in house, locked, right? And I just have to admire that. Like I study, I and they're not my enemies, but I study my enemies,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if this is somebody that, because these are the people I'm talking about, the people who look at them as the enemies. If this is your enemy, wouldn't it behoove you to study them
Mm-hmm.
and take the things that are working for them
Mm-hmm.
that you're not incorporating because they're winning, you're not.
And not even with, let me tell you something, not even with hip hop. Let's just go there for a minute. Let's go there for a minute. Not even with hip hop. When people like, well, they control the labels and they're the ones putting this music out and the poison to our people. No, sir. You will not absolve yourself from the filth that you write, from the filth that you get on the mic and say, from the filth that you make millions and millions of dollars of. You will not absolve yourself. These people run a company. And let me tell you something. The stupidity of people of any sort thinking that someone else that is not of your ilk, your race, your ethnicity, your cultural background, or your religion has to look out for you. It is the most asinine thing I've ever heard. These are not politicians. They didn't swear an oath to bring you to the mountaintop. They run record labels. You want to be a ratchet dog and talk about your women ain't shit and you kill your brother and you do drugs and you drink and here's this liquor and fuck this hoe and throw the liquor on her. You want to do that voluntarily and I can make money off it? And let me tell you how serious that is. That now that black people have network power, black people are using black people like that. So that really opened up a huge can of worms, a conversation no one wants to have. While people blame the hip hop, the record labels, the Jewish record label owners. Well, guess what? Zeus is owned by a black man. Mona Scott Young is a black woman. And they're putting your content out that you're creating voluntarily because you're not shackled, you're not at gunpoint. You got in the booth, Snoop Dogg. You got in the booth, NWA. You got in the booth, Two Live Crew. You got in the booth. So whose fault is it now? Right? So I don't get the hate. I'm still trying to understand it. Still trying to understand it.
Because humans are racist.
Of course.
I mean, and is there a problem with that? Because think about it. We could take it from a personal standpoint. It's self-preservation at the end of the day. Okay. You take it from a personal standpoint. I'm going to make sure I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So then I go out here and I get married and we start a family. We're going to make sure we good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now I done bought a home and I done paid some good money. We're going to make sure this neighborhood is good.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
it's self-preservation at the end of the day. Humans are
Mm-hmm.
tribal and humans are racist. So like you said, like why would it be one race's responsibility to look after another race? It's self-preservation at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's this is a dog eat dog world. So
Right.
it's no matter how you slice it. So that is highly irresponsible. But that's how we've been conditioned in the black community. that someone has to save us. A politician, a rapper, Oprah,
Anybody,
somebody, somebody.
But going back to Fresh and Fit specifically, people are good. People are, it's the chatters are usually, you can't say anything about Jewish people. Same thing with Kanye, right? Oh, and he said everything, blah, 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 but you can't say nothing about Jews. Well, aren't they fucking gangsta? Aren't they fucking gangsta? The problem with a lot of people is because they don't respect their own people that way, right? It's foreign to them, but that's how it should be. That's how it should be for all of us. That's how it should be for all the ethnicities and the races or whatever. You should rise up. You should rise up when somebody's coming for your people. You should. So, Haran said,
Oh yes, yes, I am okay with that, New Blicky. Yes, I am okay with it. I'm a realist.
Haran DeMarco says the fact Fresh and Fit were able to move without pushback from the Black community when they displayed their racist antics was further proof of our lack of self-worth. We've come far too cheap. We come far too cheap. That is true, because when Nick Fuentes was there, who was egging him on to say the N-word? Would Nick Fuentes be able to say that in a room full of Jewish people, a derogatory word? Would they be nudging him on? Good, say it, say it. So here's the thing. People don't like mirrors. They loathe mirrors.
Jen, you were talking about how Jewish culture, I subscribe to a YouTube channel. A guy basically talks about the ins and outs of Jewish culture.
Mm-hmm.
And see if this doesn't sound vaguely familiar with NOI. Basically, and I'm telling Lily, you.
Shrapnel. Isha's about to catch shrapnel.
It's that Lily. Y'all know. Lily, you alluded to it just a minute ago. That they keep everything in the community. Okay, say I'm Jewish. No Saint's Jewish. I know No Saint's a banker. No Saint's got a buddy who's Jewish who is a construction work on. I need this. I go talk to No Saint to get the money, and then we put the money in this guy, and it all goes round and round inside the community, and they take care of each other. And as Lily was talking about that, I thought about, I remember Malcolm X. I've try to read a lot about him. Guy was really, really smart.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about that. That whole thing back in the 60s. So, Lily, to your point, it's almost as if when you say it, how I say about improving race relations or any race or any culture, look at the people around you who are winning. Take those values out of those cultures, put them into your own, get rid of the stuff that's holding you back, and then move forward. But the whole thing about the hate content and stuff like that, it's they try to I was just thinking, because how far I guess in terms of like what we do here, we keep it, like I said, in between the lines, and it's a very well thought out discussion. It's not this business about you get the idea. Sometimes I get lost and I kind of get mixed up. I'm getting old, so anyway.
It's okay. We all getting old. I hit the wall a long time ago at 25, George.
Yeah.
I do want to address this comment here. They financed the Atlantic slave trade, and we're supposed to admire them. Shaking my damn head. Well, here's the thing. You admire Jay-Z. He sold crack. Black people helped with the slave trade as well. Africans sold Africans into slavery. You admire a lot of people. Also, a lot of rappers admire Italians, and Italians were part of the mob. Okay, they were also criminals. They're not even black or African, but black people admire Italians. That's why a lot of the rappers are named after who? Italian mobsters. So I notice people pick and choose when to admire and who to admire. Most of the athletes are a bunch of wife beaters and all kinds of murderers, and you still admire them because they can run a ball. So it's interesting to me how people pick and choose who to admire and when. I mean, Africans helped with the slave trade. You know what I mean? Jay-Z was a crack dealer. So people pick and choose when to admire. Now, here's the thing. I admire unity in any way, shape, or form. However, the Jewish community is where I've seen the most unity, and I admire unity. I admire us for getting together and going to Vegas and making something happen. I admire unity, period. Okay, when it's on some real thing. But if you're just, if it's unity for bullshit, like, oh, we're just all going to be in the chat and hate women, that to me is a weakness. Right? Yeah. Is that a unity, or is that codependency? And that's what we're talking about here tonight. It's like people are real picky and choosy about things.
So okay. It's the thing here. So the people that and there's different sects of Jewish people, obviously, but the only thing that keeps them united is a belief in a religion, and that's what we got to realize, because Jewish people are not some separate race from white people, at least not the ones that we see in Israel. They're mostly from Russia, and throughout different parts of Europe. There's other ones, of course. You have the Ethiopian Jews and things, but it's a religion. There's really no such thing. There is no such thing as you don't have a Jewish gene. And this is why, listen, for sake of having discussions, I bite my tongue sometimes when we talk about race, because there's no race gene. There are differences. There are ethnic differences. There are cultures, and we group ourselves into different cultures. But I guarantee you, and we see it right here on the panel, that even within your own culture, people try to separate. White people try to separate, like certain, middle-class white people try to separate themselves from the trailer trash. You know what I mean? So it happens regardless of how you look. I think the only thing that makes us prejudiced is when it comes to when you look at there's a lot of things actually that feed into the prejudice, people being prejudiced. But I think in general, people are prejudiced, and it just all comes from having to look and see dangers. And when you see somebody from a different tribe, it's an alert. So that's why it's natural. But as far as like, if it wasn't for like religion, those people wouldn't be any more. It's just like the NOI. It's just like a group of Hebrew Israelites, or any church. It brings cohesiveness because they have a common belief and they have rules, strict rules, and
I'm gonna disagree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna
what totally disagree with?
I'm going to totally disagree with that. It is not like the NOI. It's not like any other religion. The way their unity is different.
It's totally different.
It's real. It is real different. They are a movement. That is why the joke is they own everything. Okay.
Right.
No other religion does it the way they do it. So I have to disagree. The NOI, they all dress the same. They got the bow ties or whatever. But if you go deep, it's a different situation. So that's what I'm disagreeing with. Also, I know that there is a myriad of Jewish people under the word Jewish or Jew. I know there are different races. And when I talk about it, I'm specifically talking about the people that, quote unquote, own everything, record labels, the media,
right.
You know what I mean? Things like that. The ones that people make fun of that are cheap and they own everything.
Right.
The one that Myron from Fresh and Fit was making fun of. He wasn't making fun of Jews from Istanbul. He's making fun of the ones that own everything, the Hasidic Jews, the small hats. So I'm staying there, but I know there's like a myriad of
No. Yeah. But those guys that you're talking about are
You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, we lost your sound. What's going on? Guahapi. Welcome, Louis Cognac.
What's up?
What's up? Y'all together, Louis and George? Are you guys in the same house?
That's it. He's got good taste.
Yeah.
No, Saint, I'm going to disagree with you a little, somewhat on the Jewish stuff.
Since you guys are in the same house, let me just, put y'all together.
Wait.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Do you feel that? Yeah. Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. We got you, Saint.
So I just wanted to say, so those guys you're talking about that are in New York, A lot of them, the people and throughout the United States, they're from the regions I'm talking about. They're from Russia, they're from Poland, they're from Germany. And I've said this before, the reason that there were so many great directors that are Jewish that are in the movie industry and actors is because Germany, before they were pushed out of there was a big leading film industry out of Germany. And then the war happened. So they came over here and the best of the best got into the movie industry. But and that's just one sense. But no, those guys you're talking about, they're not. I was just saying before anybody would say, well, Jewish people are in Ethiopia and there's black Jews, blah, blah, blah. I get that. We're talking about the ones that are from the European descent. And so that's all I was saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that.
Yeah, they're called Ashkenazi Jews.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what Star told me.
Yes,
but I couldn't remember the
Ashkenazi.
name.
Yeah.
I thought it was Asiatic.
Well, you got Ashkenazi and you got Sephardic.
Okay.
Yeah, Sephardic are the ones from the Middle East, like actually
Spain,
in Yemen.
Mediterranean.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And your Ashkenazi is from the Russian Poland area.
So, okay, so you said Ashkenazi?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's what Star said that Myron was dressed up as.
Okay.
Well, Hasidic is a sect within Judaism.
Gotcha.
It's like okay. They're like there's like the Orthodox, where like Ben Shapiro, he's Orthodox. He wears the
yes, I do.
On his hip. Okay. Then further one step over, maybe a big step, depending on who you talk to, are the Hasidic Jews, who are like the men don't work. They study the Torah all day long. The women work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
And a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, from Israel, he was telling me, like, for example, in Israel, they have a big problem with the Hasidic Jews because because of the laws there in Israel. Hasidic Jews, males, they do not have to serve in the military, but everybody else does. And it's like a big, big, big deal. It's like that's kind of like a little bit of subtext where Saint, you were talking about infighting amongst them. That's one big one right there. Yeah, but
interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you for the super chat. Hold on, thank you for the super chat. Haran DeMarco says, "Are you coming up late on the show? Because I wanted to have a little meeting." Haran DeMarco says the Jewish faith is steeped in community, self-reliance, and determinism. Most religions popular with Blacks teaches victimhood, deifying one's oppressor, docility, and external reliance, thus leading to an inferiority complex. Pass the collection plate on that fucking comment. So that's why when you say the NOI and Christians, I was like, nah.
Well, I get what you're saying. No, I get what you're saying there. My point was that when you get into those groups that have a religious belief, normally, like we talked about this the other day, that those guys are in somewhat a better, like they're not, a lot of them come out of jail, right? Let's just be honest. A lot of them were in jail when they learned these religions, and they come out and they're no longer committing crime. They separate themselves from the people that are committing crime. And so, yeah, you're right. As far as like, they're not as established as the Jewish people here, for sure. But there's a lot of other groups, like you see, Muslims will shop amongst Muslims, and
they just don't have. They're not the same. They
don't have they definitely don't have the inroads like the Jewish people.
The Jewish people are the all-stars. They just the all-stars. Is what it is.
When I moved up here and I really got to really see everything in the movements, I was like, this is so impressive. Like,
it really is. I mean, it really is.
It's crazy. I mean, they don't rely on nobody for nothing. And then when the pandemic happened and they was like, everybody locked out, they said, fuck you. I was like, yeah, that's power right there. They said, I don't care what government, I find this every day if you need to. It was like, I was like, when I tell you, that's when my respect really went up. They said, fuck you. I was loving it. I said, man. And they kept it moving.
Louis Kanye, what do you think about all of this? Why are hate content creators so stupid? Fresh and Fit demonetized. Who's shocked? What do you think about all
Well,
this?
well, I'm not surprised. On the bright side of the thing, I hope they saved the money up that they made for the past 3 years. They had a good run, but when you constantly pushing the envelope, you're going to bring unwanted attention to yourself, and a lot of people were not surprised. I mean, if you like, I forgot who said being a shock jock. I
Hmm.
mean, if you're going to constantly push the envelope, and one in that space is a very niche sector of YouTube, it's very
Hmm.
small, and I guess they had to go to the extreme to constantly pull in the super chats to make that money, but they pissed off the wrong people. The only thing I could say, you had a good run. I hope you saved the money. I hope you invested it well because it's over. I mean, look at Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels was on YouTube for 7 years, but his last 3 years was very profitable. He had a
Right.
good run. So, I
Hmm.
mean, they had a good run. And let's be honest, a lot of these channels, I mean, unless you're catering to something that is in constant need, a lot of channels don't even last that long.
Hmm.
What was it that was it PewDiePie that got in trouble a couple years ago doing he made a comment about the man with the mustache. He had got in serious trouble. So I mean, this doesn't last forever, and I mean, especially if you're going to deal in a category that's very controversial, sooner or
Right.
later it's going to come to an end.
Right. And again, there are just so many of them. But, there are other platforms. There's Rumble, there's Patreon. But as we saw with Kanye, he can get blocked everywhere.
Well, I mean,
Because Kanye
Dealing
got
with them.
blocked. Got blocked. They was like, oh, you ain't
look,
going over there either.
well, I
What is
mean,
that?
look,
What is it?
this is a Jewish Torah.
Are
Oh,
you Jewish?
No, I got all the religious books. I read them.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things that I respect about the Jewish people, and it's kind of funny, you have a group of people that read like, especially with our community.
Hmm.
Hold on, moving my books to the side. I got books everywhere.
Hmm.
We read this book,
Hmm.
and this is basically the Old Testament.
Hmm.
And you have that group of people, both were victimized, but they used their victimization and turned it into power and self-reliance. Us, we use it as a crutch, which perpetuates our weakness. So it's like the polar opposite of
Hmm.
it. Like, yeah, shit. I mean, our people went through a lot of shit, like every other group of people on Earth, but they use, hey, we're a target. The only ones that's going to protect us is us, and we are the only ones that's going to like at the end of the day, we have each other. Unlike our people, it's the crab in the barrel mentality. It's like the polar opposite. And it's funny how you could get the same word from the same book and get two different outcomes. And that goes on to the pathology of the culture.
Mm.
and we're still dealing with that in 2023. People are still hell bent on being victims in 2023. It's just crazy to me. Like my thing is, my mentor used to always ask me, "Well, how's that working for you?"
I'm a fan of that question.
Me too. And if the answer is it's not, then it's time to do something different. It's just that simple. But it's just the insanity of like insisting on being a victim, insisting on reliving
Yeah.
what that is just I don't like that in my personal life. So I'm not gonna do that with you. Like I'm just not gonna do that just because we're the same skin color because it hasn't been working.
Well, it I don't have a problem if you're pointing out actions that, like, because at the end of the day, anybody could be victimized. But unfortunately, in our community, instead of pointing out who's victimizing us so we could rally together so it doesn't happen again, you have a sector of our people that will monetize off of our trauma. and constantly perpetuated and magnified. Like, look, don't do this. Don't try to be successful because you saw what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Black Wall Street and all that. Don't try to get ahead. And they're the ones that's getting paid and grifting is a grift. A lot of people see that like they're grifting off of the trauma, which is honestly, that's the highest form of treason, in my opinion.
Ooh.
Instead of coming up with solutions and as a whole group economics and everything to unite together so it doesn't happen again. And I commend what the Jewish community has done, because they said they made it a point, never again will we ever be in that predicament. And we're going to use all means necessary so it doesn't happen.
Right.
We just whine and cry, and something happened to us where as a group we have a little temper tantrum, tear shit up. 2-3 weeks later, back to our regularly scheduled program, like nothing happened, and we don't hold people accountable. All we want to do is whine and bitch and complain.
You know what, Lewis? And I love what you just said, right? Because people do monetize off of Black trauma, Black death. Those are the two. Like this, it's so profitable, right? But when you give solutions to the problem, who shoots you down?
Our own people, because
right?
we're afraid. Look, we have a culture of cowardice. Like I said before, like I'm Black, so I'm going to say it. We don't want freedom. All we want is a more compassionate slave master. That's it.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a word. We can go ahead and wrap up now, because that was a whole word.
That deserves a super chat.
That deserves a super chat.
No.
Damn, that was deep.
No.
I mean,
just victimization. And I had to get myself out of that.
Me too.
We're socialized as children because of the trauma. Like, I'm 47. So my father came from Jim Crow, Georgia. His brother was killed by the Klan. My uncle, I never seen. My stepmother came from Jim Crow, Virginia, with real hardcore racism, where everything was segregated, where they were putting water hoses and sicking dogs on you. So when they raised us, you can't blame them, because that's where they came from. Like, it was a form of protection, but that stuff is not happening now to that extent what my parents experienced.
Exactly. Like it's like certain people want to live off of other people's trauma, right?
Sorry to cut you off, Lily. We have a bad habit of taking trauma from other people and putting it onto ourselves that we didn't experience for the most part.
Right.
What does that sound like?
That literally was what I was about to say. He took the words back. That's so true. What'd you say, Justin?
I'm just wondering what that sounds like.
Oh my God. I mean, there's so many different ways they do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for instance, like, well, I didn't get that raise and I didn't get that job because, back in the day, my grandmother, she didn't get the job because she's Black, and it's a thing where it's like, did you try somewhere else? Maybe they don't just maybe they just don't like you. Maybe that's what really happened. But the knee-jerk reaction is, well, it's because I'm Black, right? And it's like, no, I just don't like you. It's you I don't like, right? But there's so many different ways they do that. I agree with you, Lewis. It's literally like, it's such a mental block. It's literally like going to the hospital and you're not sick, and then you look around and you pick whatever ailment you see, and then you say, oh, I'm sick like that too. And the person's like, what? Why? How are you sick like that too? You don't even know that. No, I'm sick like that too. That's how insane it is. Constant excuses, constant excuses. And it's because of, slavery and this and that and the third. And here's the thing. It really is tribal. I agree with Lily. Everybody is on some self-preservation shit, right? I really do think it's more that than racism. I'm starting to hate the word racism because here's the thing. If I am in power, right, I could be the color purple and green. If all my purple and green people are in power, I'm not going to hand it over to the yellows and the reds. I'm not doing it. It's
No.
No
not
one.
happening.
No one is.
But I have no reason to hand it over to you. It's not going to benefit me. These are my purple people. I like my purple people. I don't give a fuck about you. If you want power, you get with the yellows and the reds and you go
Come get it.
power.
And come get it.
Or
Come
come
get it.
get mine, or try to come get mine. That's
Well-
life. However, what people normally do, they're conditioned to do, not just Black people, but they're conditioned to beg for power and plead for power, and even worse, feel entitled to it without
Well-
putting in any work.
Hey, Jen, you know what's funny? Practically everybody read this book, 48 Laws of Power, but nobody properly applies it. And one of the biggest problems, look, for the most part,
It's because to
people
employ that book, you have to be a sociopath.
yeah, but look,
It's for real.
Look, the biggest problem, look, we get taught, we come from the sense of slaves. We got our fucking ass kicked. Yes, it did. Guess what? It happens throughout human history. When, like, we were not enslaved, we were fucking conquered. The European and the Arabs went in and conquered Africa. Being enslaved is the byproduct of being conquered. And power is not given, it's fucking taken. And the stigma has handicapped us from wanting to move forward. Instead of going out, self-determination, being the best person you could be, going on being the best group of people you could be, that's how you gain power. I mean, and as much as people want to criticize the LGBT community or the Jewish community, they should analyze what they did and how they gained power. Like, I did 10 years in the Marine Corps, and whenever this country goes to war, all the top generals, they have a massive library at Annapolis and in West Point. You have all your top officers that have records throughout all the warfares that happened throughout human history, written history, and they study and analyze it, and like to best equate to whatever war is happening that will be best logical to fight that type of warfare for victory. That's what we need to do. We need to analyze our enemy. We need to analyze who is successful and use those tactics that could best benefit us so we could be successful too, instead of bitching and moaning on YouTube or bitching and moaning in a barbershop or in a bar. Oh, I can't get this because of the white man. The white man this, the white man that. Oh, these people are holding me back. No, maybe it's your inefficiencies and your deficiencies as a person that's holding yourself back. Yes, are there obstacles in this country? Yes, life is not fair, but it's equal.
Lewis, I was going to tell you, I've got good news, man, in the sense that I'm sure Lily, Jen, you all might agree. The rise of the Black middle class that's coming is, and what we're seeing right now gives me a lot of hope for, that as the Black middle class grows, their tolerance for what you're talking about, that, being dependent upon the government, this, that, the other, or whoever, is going to greatly diminish. And I think that's what we're seeing.
Well, I believe we're going through a reset, but what we have to do is what other groups of people do.
Mm-hmm.
We have a tendency to make excuses for our trash in our community. You don't see white people co-signing trailer trash and the bullshit that they do.
No,
That's true.
Every other group of
distance
people,
ourselves.
they ostracize their degenerates in their community. We have a tendency to make excuses and co-sign their behavior.
I say it all the time.
I'm about to say,
I have some bad news to George's good news. The middle
Oh,
class,
okay.
the middle class ain't what it used to be.
Look, for no one, right?
It's closer to the working or the poor.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
you're
right.
probably right there, Jane. I won't
So,
argue with that.
so check it out. In high school, I dated this girl, and very cute, well-educated girl. She played the French horn. Band chicks are awesome. And so it was time that we had dated long enough where I was like, hey, like, can I meet your family? Right. So I met her mother and father, and that was cool, and her little brother. But then she talked, every now and then about her aunt and uncle. And I was like, oh, are we going to go like visit your aunt and uncle? And her aunt and uncle were complete trash, like they literally lived in a trailer. Okay. Like on cinder blocks. Like it doesn't get any better than that. Yeah. On
I've
cinder
seen
blocks.
that.
Like the
Okay.
Ozarks.
And she was embarrassed. She like that brought shame to her, and she did not want me to meet that side of her family. She
I
wanted
like
to
that
distance
word.
herself from that. What's that?
That the word shame. Back in the day when I came up, when I grew up in the community, there was a level of shame that was put on people that was off code, and you was ostracized for shameful behavior. Today, you don't see the community for the most part shaming you for ratchet behavior. You will get shamed if you don't go along with the regularly scheduled program of degeneracy and everything. But back then, I remember I used to listen to my stepmother talk when she was coming up. Her parents would tell her, don't mess with no man that does not have a job. Or my parents were warned. Well, my father died when I was 10, but my family members will warned me, don't mess around with no little fast little girl. This is nothing but trouble. And they used to be shamed in our community.
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't have that no more.
Yeah, now the shame and the vitriol is directed to people who don't date someone without a job.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like, oh, you're not a ride or die. Like, oh, you're not a real one. Like, that man is trying. Speak life into him. Like he needs a woman that's gonna be. Now you're ashamed if you do the opposite, which is interesting. But I have to make it clear over and over again. Like, in my opinion, there's two separate communities within the Black community. I don't even like saying the Black community because in my opinion, it does not fucking exist. It does not fucking exist. Okay. However, just for the sake of this conversation, let's say the Black community. They're two very separate, okay, because there is Black excellence. Okay. There are Black people who look at the Sukianas, the sexy reds, and they are repulsed by them. They are disgusted. However, it's very lucrative, right? The ratchet parts of the other community, it's very, very lucrative. And unfortunately, they get a lot of exposure. So then that starts looking like the Black community. And it isn't. It's a whole other world. It's just that everyone is monetizing. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone is monetizing. Asians are selling the fucking long nails to them, the purple hair, the contacts, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
White people are monetizing off of the ratchet behavior because they own the networks. Black people are also monetizing off of them as well. Mona Scott Young, Black excellence, she's successful. Zeus Network, Black excellence, he's successful. But how are they lining their pockets with all the wild bitches and dudes who don't have jobs that are fighting on TV, knockdown, drag out fights, the long nails, the attitudes, the purple and pink hair. So everybody's monetizing. So there is no line anywhere. There's no line drawn in the sand. If everyone's monetizing from this, okay, ratchet behaviors is a fucking commodity and it's lucrative. So if everybody's monetizing, there's no end to it. And that's why separation is key. It is imperative. Separation is imperative.
Let me tell you
I
a quick
want
little thing about I was in New York a couple years ago. I used to work in the fashion industry, and I worked for a studio where they sent us paintings, and it was like, so Jen, that top that you're wearing right now, that started out as a painting hand painted on silk. right? And then
Mhm.
that was scanned and then brought on and then printed and then made into a garment. So I worked for a studio that represented those artists, and I would take the paintings to the various fashion houses throughout Midtown, and I would sell them those paintings, right? And so I was taking a break, and I was in a Starbucks, and I was sitting there with my giant suitcase, and I see this guy, and he comes and sits down. He's got this huge duffel bag, right? And he's like, boom, puts it down on the ground. I was like, holy shit. Like, we just started shooting the shit. And I'm like, what's in the bag? Right. Cause like, it's like big and heavy. It's not a very common like thing you see in Manhattan. And he opens it up and it's full of hair. And he's going around doing the same job, so to speak, but going and selling the hair to wig makers, right? And to hair salons and so on. And he's like, yeah, I get this imported from India and China. And he's like, I'll clear 10 grand in one day. I was like, holy shit, dude.
Easy.
He's like, yeah. Well, yeah. 10 grand just for like not even a whole day, just a few hours of like just trucking around in Manhattan.
Yeah, they have hair. It's called hair brokers.
Yes. Yeah. You know what's always irked me being in the fashion world? I've always been into fashion my entire life. and mind you, I've had to come out of a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, right? The victimhood and just a lot of the different stuff, right? Because I had to take ownership, right? I had to take a look and study my opponents and study other people who were winning. And I was like, oh, okay, that's why they're winning and I'm not. Okay, cool. Right. And so one of the things that I noticed with us, and it comes to, and I'm just going to use this as one example, you can take this across the board. Just witnessing when it, and now, like I said, I'm just using fashion. Y'all can apply this in anything, but just witnessing how we are and how we would take our hard-earned money and just rush over to a white brand who cares absolutely positively nothing about us. It's mass produced. There's no feeling behind it. There's no soul. And here we have like we have black designers who are so dope, like so dope. And the stuff is crafted with love. The stuff is like way better than the mass produced crap. But we will rather rush over there. And it's like we're the only community that does that. So I look at things like what Jen said about the black community, right? Where it all goes back to like we really still don't even know who we are. We can't even agree on who we are. We can't even agree on if we're Americans, if we're Black Americans, if we're African Americans. But you go to
Israelites,
we're Israelites and FBA.
You're the real Jews. You're the real Jews.
We don't know who we are, but you ask anyone, right, that is in America that came from another descent, whether they're Asian American, whatever, they're going to say I'm Asian. Right? They're going to say I'm, Iraqi, or whatever, or they may say I'm American or Asian American, but they know their roots. They know that, so it's like there's so much at play here, that we're not. I wouldn't say, well, the sector that is okay with being degenerate are not willing to look at. And that's why it's just important to just let them be, separate, draw the line in the sand and move on up. Because listen, coming now, living in Atlanta and being around damn it. Okay. Being around the black bourgeoisie, they had no problem with that at all. They don't care how many coons you call them. They don't care how many sellouts you call them. They stuck together. Black bourgeoisie sticks together, right? And I just see things so different now. After I broadened my base and got out off the block and got out of the state and got out of the country, and before I can afford to do those things, I got out of the country by reading books. I got out of the country by meeting new people out of my block that came from different places. So I'm not coming from a place of elitist, saying like, oh, you need to have enough money to go fly here and there. You can fly here and there on the internet now. You don't even have to rush out to a bookstore anymore. So there's no excuse. There's just no excuse anymore.
So basically you're saying once you moved up in class, you let go of the pathologies and behaviors that you had of the class you was previously in, and you took up the characteristics and behaviors of the class that you're currently in now.
Other way around, right?
Yeah, you when you moved up in class, basically, you unpackaged the behaviors and the mentalities that you had prior to moving up in order to advance. You let go of all that. You unpackaged all that stuff, right?
Yes.
And sometimes for me, it was the other way around. I started to unpackage it and then I started to move up.
Mhm.
But it can go either way.
This comment here, Abby says that is where I think YouTube is turning a blind eye. And I agree 100%. YouTube knows that the ratchetness, the angry men yelling at the thing and the women arguing with them and that they know it's lucrative as well. So it's
Well,
really
of course, because they have all
no
the
different.
data on the
Uh-huh.
on the interaction and how
Yeah.
long people are watching certain videos and so on and so on. So they look at those numbers and go, yeah, keep them flowing. They don't care what's causing the numbers. They're just liking seeing those numbers climb.
Right. It's the same thing like when we've had arguments here. I mean, huge arguments with people and those numbers. I mean, it looks like a slot machine. My numbers look like a
Yep.
slot machine. They just go up. I was like,
Mhm.
because people get alerted. I mean, there's ratchet shit going on here. Come over here. People are yelling or screaming or
We know
whatever.
you like it.
Right.
Mhm.
And
Well,
people come and
I
they
think
stay.
part of the thing, and like I guess it's sort of reflected in my little story of the high school French horn player, is that she just didn't even want to be associated. It was almost like she wanted to forget herself that she was related to them,
Mm.
to the degenerates in her family. She wanted to forget that they were part of her family, and she was embarrassed for herself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think part of it is having a desire to want to be above, right? And not listen to people who say, "Oh, you think you're better than me?" Like, and have the pride to say, "Yeah, I fucking am.
I say that all the
I
time.
am better than you because I don't want to feel like that. I don't want to act like that. I don't want to sound like that. I don't want to behave like that. I do think I'm better and I can be better, right? I think it's
And I
perfectly
hate and
fine."
absolutely. And that's why I hate that saying, no one's better than anybody. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. That's a harsh reality. Yes, they are. That is a
And,
fact.
hey, Jen,
And
can I
I
say
have a
something?
saying. I actually have a saying. I say, because I know growing up it was always, you think you all that.
Oh
You're
yeah.
right. I do think I'm all that. But you are all that too. You just don't know it. That's your problem.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So you focusing
Can,
on me, thinking I'm all that.
can I say something,
And
Jen?
maybe they aren't. And maybe they aren't. Yeah, go ahead, Luis.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems in our community, where every other group they have the desire to advance, and I think because a lot of the trauma that people experience, our behavior, like it acts in a counterproductive manner, instead of embracing the desire to move up.
Mm-hmm.
We it the negative things we say, the victimization, it creates the fear of being successful.
Mm-hmm.
All the, like, coming up, like, you in school, you get ridiculed if you turn in your homework or you pronounce your words properly, and it creates this pathology of being afraid to be successful. And there's a lot of people in our community that has everything to be successful, but they get pumped with all the fear and everything, and it makes them afraid of actually be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And also this guilt, like, if I become successful, I'm going to leave my people behind and they're going to think this of me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how a lot of millionaire rappers get killed, because they go back to the hood.
Good.
They have to go back and hang out with all the jewelry and the cars, and usually they get killed when they go back. And you notice the ones that never go back, like the 50
50
Cent and
Cent.
the Jay-Z, like they never go back. And that is, you must separate. Separation is key. I wanted to grab this comment because WW Gaddy says, Maury retired, Jerry Springer is gone, got to keep the ratchetness alive. So much so that when I was on Access Vegas and Adam Sosnick and I got into that back and forth, what did they start yelling in there? Does anybody recall? Do you
Hoop
recall?
earrings.
Didn't watch it, unfortunately.
Your mic,
Talking about
George.
The hoop earring comment.
Jerry.
That is what they started doing. That is what they started doing. So this comment is 100% correct. People they need that drama and that ratchetness. It's big business, period. This here, Oh My Vegatron says, it's good business for them. I think he means YouTube. Just don't talk about them. Why would you talk about them, though? I'm still curious as to why you would talk about them. Because there's like this, there's a certain demographic of Black people that I think move out of fear all the time. I don't talk about them. Why is the fear? Don't talk about them. Why isn't the focus on let's get our shit together? Like forget them. Like forget them. Like why isn't the focus on let's get our shit together? Why is it you could do anything? You talk about anything. We could talk about each other, but don't talk about them. You know what I mean? There's always a monster under the bed. Always. Mm-hmm. There's always a monster under the bed. Doesn't matter.
What we love that fear porn.
Yes. Yes. And that's I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm about to go there. But no, you're right. We do.
Lily, go there. We need a Jerry.
Well,
give us a Jerry.
No,
I gotta go
because then it turned into a whole nother show.
Bye, George. Thank you so much for coming up tonight.
Yeah.
I just had to check because I wanted to find out who them were or are.
Isn't that the global elitist, or that's a different?
Well, nobody who started YouTube or Google has a traditionary Jewish last name. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't go by that either because historically they changed it and Americanized it. So
I know, but none of them have those short names either. They're like Chen.
There's no green.
Google's in Silicon Valley, right? No, I mean, yeah, right. No Steens, no. Yeah, I'd have to look at the names again, but so Bruno, there's a Bruno. No, never mind. That's not the name. Hold on. There's a Chen, a Hurley, and a Karim.
Yeah, but even you still can't go by that. Trust me, I have looked in. And
okay, but we're just assuming that everybody. Listen, Silicon Valley. There's a lot of brilliant people. Steve Jobs. There's a lot of brilliant people came out of that aren't Jewish. That have a lot of contributions.
Yeah, but I think. Yeah,
to
but
assume
I think
that YouTube's owned by some Jewish.
No, but I don't. No. I'm not assuming that. But however, he means you still can't talk. It doesn't matter if an alien owned YouTube. You still can't talk about them.
I got you.
Because they have the power to put those calls in and be like, do you see? And it's because everybody's connected.
I got
you.
So do I.
Me too. Like
that's power. Power is meant to be abused. You punish. No, that's the purpose of power. Power is meant to be abused. You reward your allies and you punish your enemies.
Lewis, historically, you're right. Historically, you're right.
Power is not given; it's taken.
But you know what? You're absolutely right, because rewinding to what I said earlier, when Black people are in power, they act just like they claim white people act.
Same exact way.
They really do.
Actually, I want to take another angle on that statement that power is taken and not given. Mm-hmm. Coming from somebody who has dealt with power exchanges in many different areas of life, I believe that power can only be given. It cannot ever be taken, right? So even say in an extreme condition where, say Jen is mugging me and she's got a gun to my head and she says, give me your wallet or your life. Okay. I can choose. I'm always in the position of holding my own power. Now it's at the cost of losing my life, but I can, I can only acquiesce to her by giving it over. Right. There's and even so, even at the point of losing my life, now that's a huge cost, but I'm still giving the power over. She cannot take it from me, right? At the end of the day, I have to offer it over. And that's the thing. The trick that's been placed on tons of different people over many, many years in different layers, in different parts of communities and races and cultures, is that it's a very subtle means of coercion, coercing people to hand over their power. And because it's like after a while, say like back in the day, you needed force and you needed to kind of bring in that force. Okay. That's all they had. Now we have media, and we've got media for a long time. Like I mentioned before, did any of you guys watch that documentary that I mentioned before about Edward Bernays?
No, I didn't get to watch it.
I didn't watch it. I watched
You-
that movie.
You gotta watch the Edward Bernays documentary on YouTube. I'm telling you, that shit is about how you can control people and invite them to willingly hand over their power, either consciously or unconsciously, and they
Are you
will
talking
do
about-
this. Edward Bernays.
I have his book, Propaganda.
Yeah, that's one of his books, but there's a 3-hour it's called The Century of Self, a 3-hour long documentary on YouTube. Check it out. And it's and because if you can just convince people to either happily or unknowingly pass over their power, you do nothing. You just sit
But I
back.
think those are two different types. That's tomato.
Right.
Those are two different types. Like you could, yes, I can manipulate you to give me
Right.
all your power, but I can also take power from you. Right.
Right.
Now
But you can't take it until I give it to you.
Yeah,
How
but
are you
it's
gonna
either
take it from me?
no. I can take it from you. Now you can walk away and say, I gave my power away, and I can walk away and say I put a gun to his head and I took it from him. You understand what I'm saying? You can walk away and say, no, I gave it to him.
You can put the gun to my head,
Mhm.
but at the end, I choose to give it to you or I die.
Because you were
Correct.
overpowered. Because you were overpowered.
Correct.
No, but at the end, it's still my choice to
Yeah,
give
but you
it
were
over.
overpowered regardless.
No,
You were
or I could say I choose to die.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because you were overpowered. Because you were overpowered.
And then the
Those are
power is
those are
given
the two
that way.
options. Exactly.
Right.
Those are the two options I gave you.
That's
I gave you
true.
those options.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's
Right.
like I can't. But at the end, like it has to be. If I give you my wallet, that's something that I have to willingly give to you. I have to give it over.
But you're not
Right.
It's not willingly though.
It's
at
not because
gunpoint.
I gave you two choices.
They
right?
they
Yes.
I
never
could've gave you
say
5
they never
choices, but
say
I
he
chose to give you 2.
they never say he gave his life away. They say that person took his life.
Right. Yes, that's true.
That's true.
I see what
I
I see
gave
what
my
you're saying, but I don't see it that way. Like I don't live it
Okay.
that way. Yeah.
Then that's fine. That's fine. I mean, shit. It sounds better to walk around and be like, I gave him my wallet willingly.
Right.
It sounds better. It does sound better.
But also in the larger context of the conversation, okay, by saying they took it from me,
Mhm.
it maintains the victim mentality. Right.
That's true too. Yeah, that's true.
Instead of saying, oh, I'm actually giving this over, it takes away agency.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah,
So if you're
that's
constantly
another
in a
way to
state
look
of
at it.
people taking from me, it removes the responsibility of agency.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about. The communities, they're constantly in a victim mentality. I can't do this because that. I can't talk about them. Why are you concentrating on any of that? Why aren't you just moving and doing and going? Right.
Yeah.
So absolutely right.
I don't know if anybody, I don't know how much white interaction Black people have,
Mhm.
with white people. We don't have
When we work in Manhattan, lots.
Well, no, we don't have community. It might
Mm-mm.
look
Mhm.
like we do. We
Mhm.
don't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When like Jen and Karen see each other at the fucking the farmers market and they're like, hi, man, they actually don't give a flying fuck about each other.
Yeah, no, I believe I believe
White
that
people
100%.
will like help each other out, and things like that, but very, very self-centered. It's me and mine, my family, my house, my land, my job, my. And it looks like we have this kind of like community where we work together, but it's working together in self-interest, right? Like I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Okay. And there really is no community. If you see it, it's not real, it's fake. It's
you're
just
right.
social pleasantry bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are very self-centered. And that's the way the fucking bridges got built. That's how the fucking skyscrapers got built. That's how the land was taken from the natives. It's like I want this, and I'm focusing on what I want. And I'm gonna just deal with the consequences. And that's really like the basic like white mindset. And people look at that and go, that's really selfish. But yeah, that's how things are built. That's how fucking Troy was built. That's how the Roman Empire was built. That's how the British Empire was built. It says, I want that shit, and I'm going to try and fucking take it.
So
either through force or through ingenuity.
Okay, so Vegatron says that's not quite true. They know who all lives in the neighborhood. It's still self-serving to know who all lives in the neighborhood.
And that's the point I was making. I used that analogy earlier. I said you buy a house, you paid. This is your biggest investment. You're going to protect your investment, even if that means you got to form a neighborhood watch, because everyone is going to protect their investments. They don't give a fuck about their neighbor, but they care about their investment.
Correct.
Yeah, and they'll come over. They'll come by
approach.
the neighbor's house. Oh, baked you a casserole. Blah blah blah. It's really to scope them out.
Right. It's like who lives in there.
Exactly.
Here's some cookies.
See, I grew up around quite a bit of white people, and Justin, you're spot on. Like people give white people way too much credit, way too much credit, which is so crazy to me. I'm just like, you all just deify these people in a weird type of way. It's so weird to me.
It is weird. It is weird, but it's conditional.
No, we are selfish as fuck.
Hey, Justin. So you're saying white people are just more pragmatic and how they maneuver in society?
I can't really say, because I can only view it from my own perspective. You know what I'm saying? So
they're more realistic in how they move. You said it's quid pro quo
and less emotional.
I'm going to do what it's the cooperation.
Yeah, I will say that there's a lot less emotion. And there's no like passionate stuff going on, and that has its downsides too, right?
Right.
We can't dance, so.
Ooh, I love it.
So
no one can have it all, babe. No one can have it all.
No one can have it all.
All offbeat.
I watched some white women, and I'm like, what is she dancing to? It can't be the music that's on. There's no way she's not dancing to what's playing right now.
She must have Tourette's.
Right. All right, guys. On that note, this was an amazing, wonderful conversation. Please join us tomorrow. We will bring something else to the table. There, I did the Fresh and Fit stream. Leave me the fuck alone. I don't want to talk about these clowns at all, them or anybody else that has that type of content. They're peons to me. I heard he cried.
He cried.
Good luck to him. Good luck to him. Please.
And everybody roasted them.
Good.
Tariq. Everybody.
Yeah, that is what happens. All right, guys. So good night. Please follow my people and come back tomorrow. Mr. Justin, thank you. Louis Kanye, thank you. It's always a pleasure when you guys pull up. Always have great insight. So Haran is here for the meeting. All right, guys. So we will say
good lighting. Was really damn good lighting.
Right. For the first time ever, I see great light colors, vivid color. We got Blu-ray, and he's just here.
Happened?
Don't worry, he better have this tomorrow. Okay.
What's up, Haran?
All right, guys. Good night, chat. Thank you for holding me down.
See you later, guys.
All right.
Now we can just work on the angles.